A. Clark, Vice President of the Toledo Buffalo Soldiers Motorcycle Club, to the podium for your testimony, ma'am. The floor is yours, and thank you for joining us today.
All right. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be here, and we'll try to get through this together here. So, am I okay to remove it? I am vaccinated, fully vaccinated. So, once again, thank you. First of all, my name is Melanie Clark Hubbard. I reside here in Franklin County. I'm a retired deputy with Franklin County. A little bit, just a quick thing on the heritage for me for Buffalo Soldiers. My father enlisted in 1941, did 27 years of service, was during World War II, Korea, and Nam. So he was classified as a Buffalo Soldier. His father also served Spanish-American War, and I had great uncles that also served in the Spanish-American War. So just a little bit of heritage. Does you understand why this is so important for me for the Buffalo Soldiers? So first, I'm just going to give you a quick history on the soldiers with the Buffalo Soldiers. So after the ending of the Civil War in 1865, there was a need for peace military. So to bring the Reconstruction period back, to bring the military back for the South and the North. So on July 28, 1866, recognizing the contributions of more than 180,000 black Americans who fought to preserve the Union during the Civil War, the 39th United States Congress passed a bill titled An Act to Increase and Fix the Military Establishment of the United States. That bill created 60 military regiments, 6 of which were all black Army regiments. Of those 6 units, 2 were cavalry and 4 were infantry, which eventually became the most highly decorated units in American military history during that time. Despite the suffering, the discrimination, and the injustice, that plagued all black American during the days of segregation, the members of the cavalry and infantry regiments served with pride and distinction. These regiments of African American men, and there is on record one female who joined. Her name was she went in as Cathay Williams, only to gain her independence and to have a job to support herself. That history is extremely important. If you would go back, her name was Cathay Williams, but she went in as William Cathay. Just little, since they're always saying men, but she is the only documented woman. So, later known as the Buffalo Soldiers, served on the western frontier. They were served west of the Mississippi because they weren't going to allow black men have weapons east of the Mississippi at this time. So the 9th and the 10th Cavalries engaged in military campaigns against hostile Native Americans, and they also protected Native American reservations on the plains and across the Southwest. These Buffalo Soldiers also captured horse and cattle thieves, enforced martial law in the cities that were lawless, guarded the southern U.S. borders, built roads, protected the U.S. mail, stagecoaches, and wagon trains, all while contending with challenges, terrain, inadequate supplies, and the discrimination. The nickname Buffalo Soldiers was bestowed on these African American soldiers by the Plains Indians because they were impressed with their toughness in battle, and because of the soldiers' dark, curly black hair resembled that of a buffalo. The soldiers viewed the nickname as one of respect and even used a figure of the buffalo in its coat of armor. Organized in Greenville, Louisiana, and at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, the 9th and 10th Cavalry regiments played key roles in the development of the western United States. In addition to protecting settlers, wagon trains, and railroads as they crossed the western frontier, these skilled horsemen soldiers assisted in the construction of roads, forts, and were in the pursuit of cattle and other thieves. Because at that time, there was a lot of lawlessness west of the Mississippi. During a battle in the 1864 near Fort Hays, Kansas City, Cheyenne warriors remarked that the black soldiers, American soldiers, fought as fiercely and with as much strength as a buffalo. Hence, the Buffalo Soldiers wore that name as a badge of honor. While the Buffalo Soldiers blazed many significant trails in the history of the American frontier, their achievements were not limited to the western United States. Members of these regiments also served in Virginia, Vermont, and New York, and answered the call of duty in places as far-flung as Cuba, Mexico, and the Philippines. They continue to prove their courage through 2 world wars and the conflict in Korea. And in 1948, President Harry Truman issued an executive order eliminating racial segregation and discrimination in America's armed forces. Then in 1952, the military was integrated, eliminating black and white segregated regiments. By that time of their integration, the Buffalo Soldiers had earned 24 Congressional Medals of Honor, including honors from France, as well as numerous campaigns and unit citations. From their ranks emerged several famed military leaders, including Colonel Benjamin O. Davis, Sr., who also was responsible for inspections over the U.S. military to include the Army Air Corps, where his son, Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., was the commander over the 99th Tuskegee Fighter Squadron. We also have Colonel Charles Young, the first black National Park superintendent in 1903, and Lieutenant Henry Flipper, the first graduate of West Point. Little history on Henry O. Flipper. For 5 years, he was at West Point. For 5 years, no one spoke to him. So he went through and graduated on his own, basically. So just, what they went through. One of Ohio's connections to the Buffalo Soldiers is Colonel Charles Young. Colonel Charles Young was born into slavery in Mays Lick, Kentucky, on May 12, 1864. So in 1865, he and his parents escaped to slavery, crossing the Ohio River to Ripley, Ohio. Young attended the all-white high school in Ripley, graduating at the top of his class in 1880. 2 years after graduating, Young took a competitive examination for appointment as a cadet at the United States Military Academy at West Point, and in 1883 reported to the Academy. He graduated with his commission as second lieutenant in 1889, only the third black man to do so. Though initially assigned to the 10th U.S. Cavalry Regiment of Buffalo Soldiers, he was reassigned to the 9th U.S. Cavalry Buffalo Soldiers and promoted to first lieutenant. Then in 1894, after his initial service with the Buffalo Soldiers and leading them in Cuba and the Philippines during the Spanish-American War, Young became a faculty member at Ohio's Wilberforce University, the first college owned and operated by African Americans. In 1903, Colonel Young was then appointed the first black U.S. National Park superintendent and the highest ranking black officer in the U.S. Army of his era or any before. Young and his troops arrived in Sequoia National Park that year to manage and patrol the area, as well as build new roads and trails for public use. In 1907, Young purchased a home in Wilberforce, Ohio, that now stands as the Charles Young Buffalo Soldiers National Monument. President Barack Obama used the Antiquities Act to preserve the home as a national monument on March 2013. In honor of the Buffalo Soldiers' significant contribution to the United States, on July 24, 1992, by George W. Bush, President of the United States of America, proclaimed July 28, 1992, National Buffalo Soldiers Day, Proclamation 6461. On July 28, 2021, we will celebrate the 29th anniversary of the National Buffalo Soldiers Day. Today in Ohio, there are 4 motorcycle organizations that represent the history and the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers. They are the Dayton, Cleveland, and Columbus chapters of the National Association of Buffalo Soldiers and Trooper Motorcycle Clubs and the Toledo Buffalo Soldiers Motorcycle Club Incorporated. The mission of these organizations are to provide history of the Buffalo Soldiers enacted in 1866 and to provide community services with emphasis on our young people. This was respectively submitted with the Toledo Buffalo Soldiers, and I want to just give you a brief on our local chapter. Beginning in the years following the Civil War, the Buffalo Soldiers have been at service to the United States and its civilians through both peace and war. Currently in Ohio, Buffalo Soldiers motorcycles clubs continue that service in communities throughout the state. With chapters in Toledo, Cleveland, Columbus, and elsewhere, Buffalo Soldiers continue to serve in ways very different from those early years. Chapters in Ohio continue to reach out to our communities. In 2020, despite the coronavirus, which left so many social services agencies unable to reach their client base, in Toledo, the Buffalo Soldiers teamed with the Lucas County Metropolitan Housing Authority to provide hot meals at no cost to the residents on site. In Cleveland and Columbus, the chapters, along with local Meals on Wheels programs, to make sure seniors and shut-ins continue to receive meals and in-person visits. Other Ohio chapters stayed involved in their pet projects for Donate Life, veterans outreach, mentoring programs for youth. Even during the pandemic, Ohio chapters of the Buffalo Soldiers motorcycle clubs were able to hold voter registration drives, census sign-up events, vaccination clinics, and important signature programs like Toledo's What to Do When Stopped by Police. Buffalo Soldiers motorcycle clubs in Ohio have raised tens of thousands of dollars for local charities, touched the lives of thousands during the pandemic, and have done all this with volunteers and support from local communities. So just a quick brief history on our American history. I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Mell. Is there any questions from the committee? The chair recognizes Representative Richardson.
Thank you, Chairman, and I want to thank you for your testimony. I was listening intently to all that wonderful history, and I don't have a question. I just, with your permission, Chairman, I just wanted to make a quick comment. One, I said when the bill was first introduced that there is an actual, at West Point now, there is an entire field dedicated as the Buffalo Soldiers Field. So if you ever get to the U.S. Military Academy, go to Buffalo Soldier Field. And you cannot go on to the establishment into the academy. Well, you can, but the main entrance, it's right there.
Oh, okay,
it's highlighted, it's showcased.
Okay, nice.
And I will tell you one other thing. You talked about Lieutenant Henry Flipper. The U.S. Military Academy now does an annual dinner to honor him,
Nice.
where all the Corps of Cadets attend.
Nice.
So I just wanted to let you know, and thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service in law enforcement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any additional questions from the committee? The chair recognizes Representative Fowler Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony today. I just was wondering, in modern context then, are the Buffalo Soldiers in the motorcycle group former veterans, or are they a mixture of veterans and other citizens? Can you speak a little bit to what the membership currently looks like? And thank you for the history.
Thank you so much. Yes. Currently, we are a mixture of backgrounds. Paula Hicks is one of our members. We have, yes, she does ride now. Yes. So we have our president, Earl Mack. He is retired from Homeland Security. He is also military. We have several veterans in our group. Fred Lefevre, I don't know if you know Fred, radio host. He is part of our organization. So we are not limited by any imagination here. It's everybody and anybody, provided that we go through a background check, because we deal with children, we deal with senior citizens, so we do have to have background checks to make sure everybody is. But no, housewives, house husbands, no. If you have a desire to be part of helping, and not even necessarily owning a motorcycle, because this is Paula's first round with it. We have other associates that are part of it too. Ministers have been part of it, and even in Ohio, there are also groups that do live history. And so it's a interesting background of everybody that we get along and just have a common goal: history, teaching our youth, dealing with our youth, and helping the community out as much as we can. So you can be part of us.
Any additional questions from the committee? I would just note that our friend of veterans, Fred Lefevre, did submit some written testimony that Ms. Mel just shared with us. His testimony is also located on your iPad if you would like to reread that or reread the testimony that Ms. Mel presented. Is there anyone else that is present that wishes to testify on House Bill number 238? Seeing none, this will conclude the second hearing of House Bill 238, sponsored by Representatives Hicks Hudson and Crawley, and my intent, just for planning purposes, would be to have a third hearing at our next committee meeting with a possible vote as well, unless there is any issues raised in the meantime with that, although I do not foresee any issues with that. That concludes all of the scheduled testimony